Sorry about that. I was muted. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Friday Night Prepper pre-party show. We'll give everybody a few minutes here to get in and let me know if sound is okay before we get too far into this. I hope you all are having a great weekend so far. I know that it is holiday weekend, so we might have a smaller audience tonight, but that's okay. Maybe some people will watch this on the replay. Either way, I hope you all are having a great holiday season. And if you celebrate Christmas, I hope you're having a great Christmas. We're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. And of course, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects, which is gold, right? So we're gonna get into that. We're gonna talk about the very first gift of Christmas, which was, or one of the first gifts of Christmas, which was gold. A couple quick things. Of course, we know that be kind is a couple of rules here if you're first time to the channel. Hey Mac, thanks for joining me. Is my sound okay on your end? Am I coming through clear? We know that awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you. We know that gold, frankincense, and myrrh were some of the first gifts of Christmas, and I'm a big fan of gold. If you're a prepper, you may or may not be into gold, and that's okay. It shouldn't be your first prep. Your first prep should, of course, be food security and a way to purify and store water, which actually I've been doing a lot of those videos lately about food independence, so check out that series. There's 2 out, and I filmed the 3rd one today, so that should be coming out next Tuesday. I'm going to try to edit that tomorrow, so it'll be ready to go on Tuesday. All right, we're going to go ahead and get into our video, but first, my legal team says that I must play this disclaimer for you.
Welcome back to Prepping with Sarge. As a reminder, this channel does not provide financial advice. Sarge is not a financial advisor. He is just some silly YouTuber creating videos for entertainment purposes, a real goofball. You probably shouldn't even listen to him. I'm surprised he even knows how to tie his own shoes. This dude totally doesn't know what he is doing. Seriously, turn back now if you are still here. Please remember that all financial transactions have a risk of losing a value. You should definitely do your own due diligence and consult a real financial advisor before buying precious metals. With all that being said, please remember to be kind to the moderators. Now let's have a great show, everyone. Here we go.
All right. Thank you, legal team, for that wonderful disclaimer. Really appreciate that. So let's talk about gold. And I did pick up some new gold on Black Friday. I'm going to go ahead and show you that here in a little bit. I just want to see if anybody else wants to join us. And I realize that this being a holiday weekend, we may not get that many people, but there was some good deals on Black Friday, and I tried to post those on Instagram, and I posted some of them in the community tab here and other places, just trying to get the word out. Not just gold and silver, but like other things that I noticed out there that were on sale for Black Friday that preppers might like. So hopefully some of you got to take advantage of that. I certainly did. I grabbed myself a few gifts and gave myself a bonus for because I work independently for 2 of my 3 jobs as a consultant and do some other stuff. So I gave myself a little Christmas bonus and used that to get myself some new gold. And I got a pretty good price on it. So if you've been paying attention to precious metals, you probably noticed that gold has really been skyrocketing. And there's a couple things. We talked about this on an earlier video about 2 weeks ago. You can check that out. I think it was Gold is on Fire or something like that. Yeah. My legal team might have to replace that lady. We'll see. The gold really has been skyrocketing. So what's going on here in brief, not to repeat the entire video that we did 2 weeks ago, but in brief, what's happening is there is some signs that the economy is starting to pick up. Now, I have some reservations about this. You probably do too if you're in the prepping community. I don't think we're out of the woods yet. And it's kind of, I watch a lot of financial analysis as part of my preps for this channel so that I can give you all good information and also make good decisions for myself, because I'm in this for myself too. I want to retire one day. That's part of when people ask me what I'm prepping for. I'm prepping to hopefully one day retire. But there's other purposes for it too, right? Like we know that in a short-term temporary emergency, I certainly could liquidate some of my assets to help myself out if I needed a car repair or tree limb fell through the roof, or I had a medical issue. There's all kinds of reasons why it's good to have some financial prepping, right? And gold and silver are part of that for us in our household. But there's a lot of people think that gold has an inverse relationship with the stock market, and that's really not true. Gold can go up when the stocks go up, gold can go down when stocks go down. So it's really not connected to the stock market. What it does, one of the best indicators seems to be that when the value, this is going to sound complicated, right? And we've talked about this before. It's a hard concept to understand, but when the value of the dollar, the US dollar versus other currencies drops, that's usually one of the best indicators that gold is about to rise, okay? Because the US dollar, for now, is still the preferred reserve currency for the world. Now, that sounds strange too, because when you think about it, if we're the reserve currency for the world, then why wouldn't the US dollar be the highest value currency in the world? And it's not. I think the British pound is, and the euro is valued at a little bit more than the dollar. And then the dollar is usually coming in around, number three or so. So why, when you think about it from that perspective, why isn't the British pound or the euro the world reserve currency? Well, I don't know, because it's not. It goes back to, post-World War II and us developing a petrodollar alliance with Saudi Arabia, which has allowed Saudi Arabia to do very well and the United States to do very well. But it's unlikely that the US dollar will stay the reserve currency forever, right? Like that's just, think about how many civilizations have risen and fallen in the history of the world. It's not likely that we'll be able to sustain that forever. The longer we can, the better it is for us in the United States. But there's complications, without getting too political into this, there's complications with us having a petrodollar alliance, right? That certainly caused a lot of issues around the globe and caused us to create a lot of enemies around the globe, right? So if you think about like all the problems that we've got with enemies, people that don't like the United States around the world, most of that goes back to the origins of the petrodollar alliance, right? There's other issues too, of course. And again, I'm not going to go into a complete analysis on this, but short version of the story is when the value of the dollar drops, gold seems to generally gold will go up, and it will go up because people start to think, what's the safest place to store my money, right? You seeing the purpose yet? Just one of the reasons why a lot of preppers like gold. What's interesting, and I'm going to briefly touch on this point of it. I've been watching all that stuff. I am going to be doing another silver order very soon, and I promise you guys we'll do some videos on that stuff too. There's a lot of 2024 coins coming out, so I'm definitely going to be getting some silver too. So briefly on Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. Now, I don't push those here on this channel. Do I own some? Yes. The reason I don't push them, and I don't mind telling you this, I've been offered a pretty substantial amount of money to promote cryptocurrencies, and I've turned that down because, yes, I do like to make money. Yes, I try to make some money with this channel, but it's more important to me that I'm talking to you about things that I personally practice in my prepping and things that I personally believe are good choices. And the crypto boys are going to hate me for what I'm about to say. And I apologize to you. And I own, in full disclosure, I do own some cryptocurrencies, including some partial Bitcoin, things like that. But here's the reason why I don't see a good future for cryptocurrencies. The US government, and this is not conspiracy theory or anything like this, you can look this up. It is public knowledge that our leaders want to move to a digital dollar, right? And they may not call it the digital dollar. It is different names that are being floated around, but basically a cryptocurrency that is backed by the full faith and credit of the United States, right? For whatever that means. And so that's coming. When is it happening? I don't know. I wish if I knew, I would tell you. Do I think it's in the next year? No. Do I think it's in the next 4 years? Probably not, in my opinion, but it could. Do I think it's in the next 10 years? Probably. I think we'll see this. And what will happen, this is, count this as like, this is just entertainment value, right? But I'm giving you my thoughts. What I think is going to happen is when the closer they get to pushing out that digital dollar or the Hamilton coin or whatever the heck they decide to call it, they're going to start a campaign of propaganda to really lower public trust in all the other cryptocurrencies, because they're going to want it to dominate. They're going to want people to move their money into this. And so there's going to be a lot, this is just my thoughts, okay? But I think there's going to be a lot of propaganda saying that like this cryptocurrency is not safe, this cryptocurrency is not safe, and ours is the digital dollar or whatever they call it, right? I think that's how this is all going to play out. Now, you, the prepping community, we may say, well, I recognize psyops and propaganda for what it is, right? Because I think the prepping community is a little bit more in tune to that kind of stuff and sees, the layers of information, if you will, right? I think we kind of get those things a little bit better than the average person who is, listening to the mainstream media while they're playing on their TikTok and sipping their red wine and taking God knows what else to numb themselves out. So those people, which is probably, I don't know, 80%, 90% of the country, maybe more, maybe it's 95% of the country, they're going to buy into it, hook, line, and sinker. And search your heart, that I'm right. We can go out there, the entire prepping community and the cryptocurrency community can go out there and say, this is propaganda. They're just trying to push you out of all these other cryptocurrencies into the digidollar. We can do all that information campaign, and it's not going to matter. In my opinion, it's not going to matter because 95% of the people are going to buy into this digital dollar when it comes out. So it's going to happen. And I know I've seen other people in prepping community say, well, we need to fight this. You can do what I'm doing and educate people and that kind of stuff, but it's not going to matter. It's really not going to matter. So when that happens, I think it's going to be a bad day for cryptocurrencies. And I don't know when it's going to happen. If I did, I would tell you. But that's the reason why I don't promote those here. And to the crypto boys who are watching this, who are probably on their keyboard about to tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about, okay, that's fine. You can disagree with me. And I'm sorry if I piss you off. I really am. I'm just telling you my thoughts on it. With, go make your own channel and give your thoughts on it. And you can even call me out and say, this guy's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. That's fine. That's fine. You can have me on your channel and we can debate it. Okay. I'm happy to do that with you. And I'm not all 100% gold or 100% gold and silver either. Like, I think you should diversify your assets. I think you should diversify your financial preparedness when you're at that stage, right? Remember, if you're just tuning in now, I see a few more people popping in. Operator, thank you so much. And Burpee, thank you so much for popping in. And Stuart's Prepping, thank you so much for popping in. Appreciate everybody. Yeah, and if you're getting anything of value out of this, please consider giving me a thumbs up. If you hate my content, give me a thumbs down. It's okay. I appreciate feedback. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. So I'm not 100% in on silver and gold. I'm not. And Virginia Bushcrafter, thank you so much for joining in. Appreciate you. I diversify, and I think financial preparedness, you should diversify too. I think you should have a cash savings, right? How much do you put in your cash savings? Well, that's going to depend on your situation, what you can afford to put back, how much time you've had to prepare. And other people might say, well, you should have 1 month versus of salary, or so they may say as low as you should only have, your deductible for your house and your car saved, right? If you really want my opinion, I would say you should try to aim for 6 months or more in cash reserves, right? 6 months of 6 months of the ability to pay for your mortgage or rent, your electricity, your medicine, some basic food, although you should be prepping your food for emergencies too. And if you've got a car payment, you probably should be thinking about maybe car payment insurance for that stuff too, right? 6 months of covering those. Not necessarily thinking about your discretional spending, your entertainment money, things, birthday gifts, things like that. Just 6 months of those. I think if you do that, you're in pretty good shape for most situations, okay? Beyond that 6 months of emergency savings, then you start thinking about longer term stuff, creating passive income. What do I mean by passive income if you've never heard that? Well, there's a lot of different ways to create passive income, but one way that I like to do it is I invest in companies that pay a dividend back. And I particularly like companies that have been around for a long time, that have weathered through numerous recessions, and that they're big enough and financially strong enough that they're going to make it through, a really, like, let's say we had a really bad depression, like a great, I heard somebody say a greater depression, like we had the Great Depression, if we had a greater depression. So what companies are that? Those are your blue chip companies like Coca-Cola. I do invest in some pharmaceutical companies. I know some preppers don't like that, but I'm giving you my full disclosure. I invest in AbbVie, Johnson & Johnson, a couple other ones. I do invest in some REITs. If you don't know what a REIT is, it's a real estate investment trust, and you get a dividend back on how much profit they make, right? So I get money that comes in, and I don't touch it. It goes into like my brokerage account, and then I can reinvest it, or it's emergency money if I need it. But I get money dividends that pay out from these different companies. That's passive income, right? And if I don't touch it, it just goes part of my retirement. Because again, at the beginning of this stream, I said, what am I prepping for? I'm prepping for retirement. I hope none of this other stuff happens, like, another pandemic or zombies or EMPs or whatever, comets falling out of the sky or whatever. I hope none of that stuff happens, but I'm a prepper. I think about those things too, right? So that's where we are. How much for precious metals? Most people are going to tell you 5 or 10%. Okay. So you decide for yourself, but emergency savings, cash savings first, then diversify however makes sense for you. If you like to go really conservative with it, you could do bonds and CDs and stuff like that, and you're still making a little bit of money back, right? There's all kinds of different ways to do this. All right, let me show you. Ungrateful Peasant, thanks for joining. Appreciate you. Let me show you guys the gold that I picked up here on Black Friday. Just a couple little pieces, but some nice ones. I got some pretty good deals on this stuff. So this was a this is a 1/4 ounce Britannia from the, my vision's terrible, Year of the Monkey. I'm going to try to show it to you in the camera as best as I can. Let's see. There we go. Almost got it. The light's going to reflect a little bit. Sorry. Got to come back a little bit. There we go. So that's the Britannia. That's a 1/4 ounce right there. So 1/4 of an ounce of gold. And then I got 1/10 of an ounce of a gold Canadian leaf. Yeah, I'm sorry, the camera's not going to show these really well today. If I go like that, there we go, stabilized a little bit. So I got 1/10 of an ounce of that. And then I said recently on one of my streams that I was also going to be going a little bit into gold jewelry. So I picked that up as well. And why gold jewelry? So when you buy gold jewelry, you're going to pay a higher premium. Unfortunately, you are going to pay a higher premium. So if I had bought bars or coins instead of this, I'm going to get more gold for my money. But I'm starting to think I want to diversify a little bit into jewelry because it's looked at a little bit differently in some circumstances, right? So we had the gold confiscation of 1933 or whatever it was. Gold jewelry did not get confiscated. You did not have to turn in your gold jewelry. When you are crossing international borders, gold jewelry is seen a little bit differently, right? Like, so you could wear as much gold jewelry as you want. It's not that big of a deal, except you might attract some attention to yourself if you're not being discreet about it. But if you bring in, say, 15,000 in gold coins, that's going to attract some attention. And it's not that it's illegal, but you're going to probably get searched, and you're probably going to have to answer some questions, and you might end up on a list or whatever. So, unless you're going to a coin show or something like that. And one of our legislators just got busted for that kind of stuff, right? That he was bringing in a lot of gold. If anybody remembers who that was, go ahead and throw that in chat. He was bringing in a lot of gold. So what does that tell you? If the legislators are hiding their money in gold, what does that tell you? Right? These people are smart with their money. They know what they're doing. I get frustrated when I hear people say that gold doesn't really serve a purpose for preppers because you can't eat it. Well, I can't eat my flashlights. I can't eat my knives. and those serve a purpose, right? They're different preps for different purposes. So the gold is just a piece of financial preparedness. It's not going to do me any good in the zombie apocalypse, of course. It's crazy. Or an EMP or nukes dropping no, of course it's not going to help me in those situations. It helps me in everything else leading up to that, right? If you all know who Furfal is, who's written some great books on survival, who survived the collapse of the Argentinian economy, one of his famous quotes is that there's very few problems in the world that 5,000 in US cash, a few gold coins, and a Glock can't solve. And if you think about it, that's true. There are very few problems that can't be solved with those three things. Again, it shouldn't be your first prep. I will agree with you all on that. It should not be your first prep. Your first prep should be food security and a way to purify and store water. But later on, when you've got all the basics covered and you're starting to think about, okay, I want to prepare for financial preparedness as well. I'd like to have some savings. I'd like to maybe one day retire. Because if I spend all my money on canned peaches and then nothing happens, what am I going to do in retirement? I'm going to live off my canned peaches. Yeah, but then there's no extra discretionary spending, right? And I can't go and turn that in. Nobody's going to buy those canned peaches off of me if it's not an apocalyptic situation. But with these guys, I can go and sell that if I need some discretionary money, right? So it serves another purpose too. You get it? All right. Share this with people out there that don't get it. That's what we need to do. We need to, some people don't understand that it's not always about EMPs and zombies. Not always about the end of the world. There's a lot of other situations in prepping where a little bit of financial resources will go a long way towards solving your problems. All right, folks, I got a couple more things for you tonight. Let me check in with chat, and then I am going to talk about the three magi. So that's what I will end with that. But let me check in with your chat here. I want to say hi to everybody. I think I left off with, I saw Virginia Bushcrafter. Let's see. Everyone should have an immediate cash savings. Exactly, operator, for something like an emergency, car repair, new water heater. Yep. Because what does Murphy's Law say? Whatever's going to go wrong is going to go wrong. If it can go wrong, it will go wrong. I know I always get these little sayings wrong. Yeah, that's true. 100%. I wouldn't put all my money, all my financial prep into gold and silver. And I know people who've done that and they've told me that they regretted it. Let's see. It looks like everybody's mostly just saying hi to each other. Judy May Collins, good to see you. Appreciate you. Hope you're doing well. Merry Christmas. Homestead Aquarius, Merry Christmas. Yeah, and if you know what to do with that stuff, like Maccabeus, if you watch his video where he recently made a hurricane lamp, if you're good with stuff like that, absolutely having some of those metals around, you can do a lot of good things. If you know a little bit of blacksmithing, you can do all kinds of cool stuff, fix and repair tools. I'm not strong in those skills, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm very impressed with you. Go watch Mac's video about Maccabeus there. Watch his video about, in fact, if somebody wants to link it, Maccabeus, if you want to link it, the video about the hurricane lamp. I mean, it's awesome. It's awesome. All right, I think I caught up on chat. And so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to read you about the three wise men, the three magi. And if you're not Christian, it's okay. I'm not here to push my faith on anybody. So just if you're not a person of faith, just consider it a story. Or if you need to check out, it's okay. I don't do that here. I am a Christian and I support other Christian channels, but I don't push my faith on you. If you have questions about it and you want to talk about it privately or whatever with me, absolutely. I'm here to talk about it with you. But I'm going to read from, this is Matthew chapter 2, verses 1 through 12 from the King James Version of the Bible. Now, when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and are come to worship him. When Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. When he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he demanded of them where Christ should be born. And they said unto him, in Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it is written by the prophet. And though Bethlehem, in the land of Judea, in the land of Judah, art not the least among the princes of Judah, for out of thee shall come a governor that shall rule my people Israel. Then Herod, when he had privily called the wise men, inquired of them diligently what time the star appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem and said, Go and search diligently for the young child. And when ye have found him, bring me word again, that I may come and worship him also. When they had heard the king, they departed, and lo, the star which they saw in the east went before them, till it came and stood where the young child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. And when they came into the house, and when they were come into the house, they saw the young child with Mary his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. And when they had opened their treasures, they presented unto him gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And being warned of God in a dream that they should not return to Herod, they departed their own country another way, into their own country another way. So I'm sorry, I butchered the reading of that just a little bit, but you got the idea. So gold was, in fact, one of the first 3 Christmas gifts. And a couple just, I did a lot of religious education as part of my growing up. I grew up going to a Catholic school, and then in high school and college studied other world religions. So it was kind of an interest of mine. So I know a little bit about some of the major faiths as well. But some interesting things when you get to study different faiths and they look at some of these things from a different perspective. A couple things that stood out. So typically, the images of the manger scene, you often will see the wise men in the manger scene, but according to the version of the Bible, they were probably moved into a house at that point. Now, not a permanent house, but they probably found like somebody that could rent them a room or something like that. When they first came into Bethlehem, there was no room. And so Mary went with Joseph to a manger, which would be like the equivalent of a barn, and gave birth to Jesus in the barn or the manger. But despite what you typically see in modern manger scenes, they probably still weren't there when the wise men arrived, because it specifically mentions a house. A couple other things that were interesting here. They do talk about these magi were reading the stars, which is in some Christian faiths is really frowned upon. When we talk about like astrology and that kind of stuff. But the Bible actually makes reference of that the wise men were reading the stars for the birth of the king. Just interesting. Herod, if you don't know the story, Herod planned to slaughter all the babies, all the young men, to prevent a new king from rising. And so by the wise men exiting, by going a different route back to their country, they did not return to Herod, and they did not inform him of where Jesus was. So that would have bought a little bit more time for Mary, Joseph, and Jesus before they could move on. Now, how long did they stay in Bethlehem? I don't think that's clear before they moved on, but they probably didn't stay there very long. As soon as Mary was able to move, they probably moved. So all of that stuff's just kind of interesting. We have to take some different contexts into it, and there's different translations of the Bible which have slight differences. The story's basically the same, but there's might be slight differences in the interpretations of certain words. Has to do with like the original Bible was in Aramaic and Hebrew, the early versions in Aramaic and Hebrew, and so in those languages, some words have multiple meanings, some things and can be interpreted a little bit differently. We could do a whole another stream just talking about some of those things, like when they talk about Moses parting the Red Sea. There's possibly that it was the Reed Sea, which was much smaller and had a tendency to dry up at times. There's some indication that might have been what it was, but again, this is just different things I've heard in religious studies classes that I took over the course of my younger years. The big takeaway there is that like Mary and Joseph and Jesus would have been most likely very, very poor. at best, maybe lower middle class, because Joseph was a carpenter, and assuming that there was a lot of work for him, at best, they would have been maybe lower middle class. And so gold would have been really helpful for getting them moved out of that area back into safety, getting a life started as a family together, and it would have been a very important gift. Now, frankincense and myrrh. Frankincense, my understanding is it's a holy incense, and if you've ever been to Catholic masses during one of the holy days, sometimes they use that. It's got a very, very strong smell. It's pleasant, but it's very strong. And myrrh, I believe, is like a healing oil. It's a type of oil that has some healing properties to it. So those would have been three very, very expensive gifts for probably a very, very poor family. So, anyways, I hope you enjoyed that and my interpretation of those passages from the King James Version of the Bible. Let me check your chat one more time, and then I'm going to go ahead and call this a night and wish everybody a Merry Christmas. Let's see. Okay, so there, Mac put in the chat, I think that's his hurricane lamp video. You should definitely go check that out. Really cool build. Praxis, good to see you, brother. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, thanks, Burpee. Appreciate it. Okay, thanks, Mac. Appreciate that. And all right, I think I got everybody. Judy May Collins, good to see you. Thank you so much. All right, so let's end it with this. I know we talked a lot about materialistic stuff today. And remember, whether you're Christian or not, the most important thing for Christmas is to, if you're Christian, it's to recognize what we're celebrating here, which is the birth of our Savior. If you're not Christian, then consider it an opportunity to reflect, find whatever connection and meaning you have with your higher power, however you conceive that to be, and spend time with your family. Really important. If you don't have a good relationship with your family because they're not good for you to be around, I understand. I'm a therapist. I work with a lot of people who don't have situations with a good family and had to cut them off. So sometimes your family is your friends. Sometimes it's your work friends. Sometimes it's your community online, right? So however you conceive your family as well. But most of all, do a little bit of reflection and quiet your mind a little bit and consider how big everything in the universe is and how small we are and how short our lives are, right? Like in the blink of an eye, old Sarge won't be here anymore. And somebody, YouTube won't be here one day. It'll be something else, something that we can't even conceive of right now, right? So use that time well. Use that time well. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've been enjoying this, I appreciate you for staying with me. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your holiday with your family. Merry Christmas to all of you. And remember, keep planting your seeds, keep stacking your silver. This is Prepping with Sarge.